While that's 1 year later than last year's projections indicated, Social Security benefits would be dropping by 23% if no action is taken. Because according to experts, by raising taxes on people making over 250 grand, the bill would extend the lifespan of Social Security for another 75 years. Currently, any earnings above 147 grand are exempt from Social Security payroll taxes. The bill would lift the cap and subject any income above 250 grand. The bill's sponsors say 93% of households will not see their taxes increase as a result of the provision. Under the Social Security Expansion Act, annual COLA would no longer be currently based on the CPI index, but some otherwise be based on the CPI index for the elderly, which sponsors say would more accurately measure the spending patterns of senior citizens who are in need of stimulus cash. Folks, it is definitely important for Joe Biden to do more for the American people in sending out stimulus payments, and I believe he could definitely do that right now. But first of all, let's get over this. Now, important news, new data revealed that Social Security will likely pay out more than you think. Millions of Americans are miscalculating how much money they will actually get from Social Security. The Social Security Administration says this: older Americans face a host of challenges, a host of difficulties across the country. Now, today, a report released by researchers at the American Enterprise Institute found that a significant number of pre-retirees underestimate their future annual Social Security income by nearly $2 grand. An even larger portion undervalued those benefits by over $5 grand. And the analysts compared respondents' self-reported expectations of their retirement benefits to their actual reported Social Security income. They concluded that while most older adults between 50 and their early 60s have accurately predicted the age at which they anticipate Social Security benefits, they're underestimating their yearly benefits by 11.5%, or about $1,900 on average. But so far, roughly a quarter of respondents were off by even more in their calculations. They said that their findings are consistent with analysis by the SSI, which found that across the age spectrum, some workers substantially undervalued their future benefits compared to projections from officials and researchers. Retirees who have started claiming their benefits have comments on this. That's like this: more than 50% of respondents to a Senior Citizens League survey reported that they didn't even think this year's COLA would keep pace with rising costs. But according to the latest calculation, Social Security recipients can get a modest raise next year, as inflation cools even more. And as inflation cools, many have talked about this yearly rate of inflation slowed to 4% from 5%. The Federal Reserve views that core rate as a better predictor of inflation trends. The increase in the core rate actually is for over the past 12 months, slipping to 5.3%. And according to an ongoing survey by the Senior Citizens League, older consumers are reporting little improvement in their household spending yet. Since January of this year, the actual inflation rate, as measured by the CPIW, was lower than the older Americans receiving in 8.7% COLA. But the difference theoretically should provide a modest temporary improvement in buying power of roughly $52 a month for a retiree with average benefits of $1,001,694. But there are multiple changes to Social Security over the next 2 years. The administration released its Vision 2025 plan, highlighting its 80 years of history and laying out its projects for the next 2 years. The maximum benefits that retirees can receive at the full retirement age just changes with inflation. The most recent increase occurred for 2023, when it rose from $3,300 to $3,600 this year. Now, not every beneficiary receives the maximum payment, which also depends on the length of time they pay into Social Security. The SSA said it plans to improve its customer service experience by employing exceptional workers and by accommodating its recipients through whatever means necessary. The SSA also plans to make its beneficiaries' interaction more personal based on the individual's needs, preferences, and Social Security relationship. Stimulus. Plus, the Fed is also looking for another wave to raise the rate hike, which will affect many seniors and people on Social Security, SSI, SSDI. Plus, folks, I also want to say this right here. Joe Biden can make its stimulus happen. It's possible because the high inflation rates may be far from over, but it doesn't mean everything's done. At least, not yet. Because here's what I'm saying. Americans' average income has been beaten by inflation for the past 6 months, driven by the plummeting cost of gas, along with drops in furniture, cars, and other goods. If the trend continues, it could be a boost for Joe Biden, as he gears up for a tough re-election campaign. undercutting one of the main Republican arguments against his handling of the economy. Now, Jared Bernstein, member of Biden's Economic Council advisor, said that people really know how far their paycheck goes. When gas prices are down $1.70 to where they were last summer, that's the kind of breathing room that people recognize. Yet that progress could be in jeopardy, as the Fed officials are preparing to meet next week to raise the rates again, their inflation-fighting crusade with Jerome Powell. And we all know that Jerome Powell isn't even doing much for the American people. What can he do anyways? But it's up to President Biden to make it happen. It's up to Joe Biden to make his stimulus approved. One thing I know for sure is that the economy added 4.5 million jobs, and data has to be released on Thursday. It's expected to show that the GDP increased by another 3% in the last 3 months, defying downturn worries for the time being. But that may change since the impact of the Fed's aggressive rate hikes have not been fully felt in the economy. Prices have been cooling in the past 6 months. The CPI rose again 6.5% and down from 9% in the 12 months of June. Average hourly earnings grew even more slowly, 4.6% over that time period. But a steady drop in inflation in the second half of the year helped income surpass price increases again, bringing real workers' pay roughly to the same level it was prior to the crisis. And with unemployment still at the modern lows, some in Washington, some on Wall Street have held out that the price spikes can cool even further. But people are kind of suspectful of this, and no one really knows if that's going to happen because, let's face it folks, first of all, with unemployment still at the modern lows, prices have come down in many areas like gas. That's probably because the White House officials have driven home the price declines for months by touting them on Twitter and in speeches. And though the price is driven by global factors that are mostly out of Biden's control, what are your thoughts on this, everybody? Tell me in the comments. Because back on January, the last month, the US hit its debt ceiling again. Plus, it had spent around $31 trillion, folks. That's right. $31 trillion for the American people.
We are not in a quorum call.
Then we should not vitiate it.
All right.
Mr. President, my understanding is that the so-called Inflation Reduction Act may be coming to the floor in the coming days. And there are some people who think this bill is worth supporting. There are others who think that it is not. But whatever your views on this bill may be, let us be clear. As currently written, this is an extremely modest piece of legislation that does virtually nothing to address the enormous crises that working families all across this country are facing today. This reconciliation bill falls far short of what the American people want, what they need, and what they are begging us to do. Given that this is the last reconciliation bill that we will be considering this year, it is the